Hi, I'm Tracey L. Fisher, and welcome to a Reentry Point of View. It's an honor to be here. We've been going for a while, but we're back now and off of vacation. And my first guest, it's an honor to have him here. His name is Willie Singletary, and he's running for Congress. Welcome.
Good morning, Tracy. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for coming.
It is good to be here, especially with this show of Reentry. And I'm just grateful that you give me the opportunity to come and just share my heart.
Right, and this show is broadcast on Comcast, which has 22.2 million viewers. That's amazing, right?
It's beyond amazing.
And what we do is, right, we like to invite guests on, and I like to get out the way. Okay, so what I'm going to say is this to my audience: this gentleman is running for Congress. Tell us why you're running for Congress.
Well, my name is Willie Singletary. I'm running for the 3rd Congressional District here in Philadelphia. I'm running for Congress, number one, because I have a heart for people. Number two, because I believe I can make a difference in our community. And number three, we need a progressive style of new leadership in our city. And I'm running to stabilize our community economically, to provide advocacy in Congress for the average person, the small business, the young person, the seniors, the veterans, the person who does not ordinarily have somebody speaking up for them or a voice. And so therefore I'm running, I want to empower our communities, educate our children, equip and engage our constituents.
Now, with that being said, is that not already being done with those that's already in Congress, to your knowledge?
Well, I think some of it's being done, but I think there needs to be a new approach. I think there needs to be a new agenda. There needs to be some new ideas, and I think it's time for a fresh start.
Right. Okay.
Because every business, every corporation, every so many years, they have a rebranding. So that's why on the cornflakes box you see a different style box every 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And so I think we're at a season where not only Congress but Philadelphia politics needs a rebranding. And sometimes that rebranding means a different face,
Right.
A new set of ideas.
So you mentioned Philadelphia politics, right?
Yes.
And how do you feel about the politics in Philadelphia, particularly about the Democratic politics in Philadelphia, right? The state of it right now.
I think the state of the Democratic politics, it's 2 or 3 people control. 2 or 3 people are controlling the Philadelphia politics. I think it's time for the people to control our politics.
Right.
And too much of it is being done by the people who have their best interests at heart,
Okay.
not the people's.
Right. I understand that. So you saying that in the Democratic city, which Philadelphia is, this
Yeah.
blue, and in this city, 80% of the politicians are black in our urban community. That true statement.
Absolutely.
And only three people may be running all of them.
Absolutely. I mean, we let's be honest. I mean, there's a few people who are running politics, and they're the people that put the money up. And when you put them in office, they got to answer to you. They got to be loyal to you. So I think it's time out for accepting money from certain people because they don't have our interests at heart. And if they don't have our interests at heart, why do our leaders accept their money? One thing that happens in Philadelphia is when it comes to a citywide race, we don't support one another. We get split because they buy our votes. They buy our leaders. You know, if it's a citywide race and they need to split the black vote, they're going to go to one leader and give him enough money so he can endorse their candidate. I think it's, we got to get to the point where we unify. And it's time for our community as African Americans and minorities to unify, to come together, to stick together and work together. And the only way we do, we have to raise our voice and get our leaders. And if they don't want to play ball with us, then we got to move them out the way.
I agree with that. So let me ask you this: let's say you win, you win the seat.
Yes, sir.
What's the first thing you do?
Well,
That's Congress.
Well, as you know, Congress is a legislative body, so I will be in freshman Congress. One of the things that I would do is my passion is justice reform. So I would try to see what committees, and the committee I want to get on, it's very difficult to get on. It's
What committee is that?
The Judiciary Committee.
Okay.
But I believe in the favor of God.
Okay.
I believe He can work stuff out for me. But one of the things I want to do is for my congressional district, and I'm telling people, you need to hold me accountable. And we always say hold us accountable, but I've come up with a plan of how to hold me accountable because I'm sick of politicians giving us promises without performances. I'm sure the people are. So what you do is I want to have a congressional council. And in that congressional council is all the small grassroots groups that are in that council. We meet together once a month. We come up with an agenda for the council. It's no longer what I want to see happen, is what we see together. It's not about what I think, it's about what the people come together and we come up with an agenda together. And so we put up on the board, this is what we want to do, A, B, C, D, F. And in 2 years when I'm up for re-election again, they can say, well, Willie, we've done A, B, C, D, and F, so we're gonna keep pushing forward because you're working on our agenda. But Will, if you ain't done nothing you said you're gonna do, you haven't delivered. So how can you expect us to support us? But I think we have to have realistic expectations of what we can do in that moment, in that season while we're there. So it's my desire to become the Congress for the long haul. But I don't believe you got to be there for life.
Right.
There's a difference. I think you have to be there a significant amount of years in order to get some leadership to bring some real resources back to the city, which takes about 10 years, 12 years. But after that, then it's time to move on. I'm 37, just turned 37 on. By the time I'm 50, I'm going to be done with Congress. Going on to something else.
Okay. So what you're saying is that everyone should look at the political report card of the person that's in office.
Absolutely.
And then judge by that.
Absolutely.
Instead of by how much money somebody put behind them and backed them for them to be in office. Right?
Absolutely.
And that's true. Now,
money has perverted our politics.
Right. But so my audience might be saying this though. I know that name, Willie Singletary.
Yes.
I know that name. Like when I met you, I didn't know you, but I was listening to you and you made some great points. So I was like, well, listen to him. But the name sounded familiar. So what makes your name so familiar that they would say, oh, that's Willie Singletary?
Well, let me just say this. In 2007, I ran for judge, and people said I couldn't do it. But I worked. I knocked on doors, got on trains, got on buses. Yes, I was blessed with the first ballot position, but I worked hard. And I won traffic court. I was young. I just wanted to serve. So that was a position that I tried at, because at one point I couldn't get my own just due at traffic court because I had my own issues. But I was always taught you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. So they wouldn't hear me, so therefore, okay, I'm gonna run for it. I ran, I won, and being young and immature, I made some mistakes. I made some poor choices, some bad decisions. But I'm gonna tell you this, Tracey, I made a mistake, but I'm not a mistake. And I will not allow people to hold that mistake over my head. I think the problem with society is we want to label a person by the mistake they made and never give them the fresh start they need. And it's not just racial lines, it's within our own people. And so therefore, I was a judge. Some of my brothers have been in and out of prison. I never knew what prison life was like. It's a different experience when you go to prison than when you go to prison. If I go visit somebody, I'm coming out in a few hours.
Right. It's a different mind frame.
But if I got to go in, something changes.
Right.
And so I think, and I'll talk about this in a few moments, I think I'm more suited to fight for justice reform because I've been the person who had the authority to sign my signature and send somebody to jail. But I've also been the person who slept on a rack with a mattress as thin as I can think of, and you're really sleeping on a metal plate, basically. So therefore, I think for me, it's a personal issue because too many of our African American brothers and sisters are in prison unjustly, or their sentence is beyond
Overkill.
What it should be.
It's overkill.
And when our criminal justice system was, prison was created, it was supposed to be for rehabilitation. But no rehabilitation happens. How am I supposed to be effective in society if I'm not being rehabilitated? They're taking the schools out of there, the programs out of there, they're taking the college programs out of there, they're taking everything out that will make me successful when I get out. But when I've done my time, when I've walked off probation, you still have the issue of he's an ex-offender, he's an ex-con. They label you by your past and never give you the opportunity to start off. The other day, brother said to me, he said, Rev, they call me Rev in Southwest. I said, Rev.
Because you're a pastor, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
He said, Rev, I picked up your card the other day, he said, and I was getting ready to go pick up another pack. He said, because I've tried to do the right thing. He said, but making $250 a week, how can I feed my family? I got a wife, 3 kids. He said, I feel like I'm less of a man when I can't provide when I'm used to providing. He said, so when the system won't allow me to get a decent job, it's set up for me to go back to prison. He said, but when I seen you running, he said, this has given me hope. Because if you can get a fresh start, if you can get in there and make a difference, maybe you can change the perception of those who come out of prison and really want to do the right thing. Then the other night I saw a story on 60 Minutes of Sean Hopwood. He was a multiple convicted felon of major armed bank robberies, who, while in prison, became we call them the jailhouse lawyers. Right. And so while he was in there, he wrote some briefs and studied hard, and he said some stuff, and twice while in prison got before the United States Supreme Court, which the average lawyer can't even get there. Came out, did some little work, started going to school, went to law school, and now this same person is a professor at Georgetown University Law School, which is one of the most prestigious universities in our country. That right there the other night gave me some hope. So if it gave me hope, I know it can give somebody else hope.
Absolutely. What about Marion Barry?
Absolutely, but there again, it was the people.
The people put him in there.
Who said, you know what? I don't care what you say. He's our guy.
Exactly.
And that's the sentiment that has been around Southwest and West Philly. They said, we don't care what they say, but Willie's our guy.
Right.
One thing that anybody can say about him in the community says, one thing we know for sure is Willie has the heart for people. He's not just running for prestigious title. He's running because he loves people. He wants to serve people. And quite frankly, we need somebody that's going to serve us and not want to be served. We don't have time to play hopscotch and jumping jacks over politics in D.C. while our folks still don't have no jobs, while our folks still here struggling, while our folks still here going through it, and they want to play perverted politics. For me, it doesn't matter who writes the legislation. As long as that legislation is going to benefit my community, not temporarily, but long term, then I'm going to vote for it. We got to get beyond Democrats and Republicans, black and white, Jew and Gentile. We got to get to the point where we're serving people. That's what they elect us to do, is to serve people, not serve ourselves, or serve these banks or these 1% like Donald Trump is doing. He got to go. He talking about send folk in shitholes. Hell no, we ain't going nowhere. It's our families. It's our ancestors that built this country. Matter of fact, it's our people who built the house that he's sleeping in every night.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. How did you handle when you was incarcerated, when you first got charged, with your church? How did they respond to that?
Well, I thank God I had a unique church, a unique people. For me, I've always been transparent. And sometimes it's got me in trouble. Because sometimes we can share just too much stuff and then people just use it against you. But the City Refuge Church and Constellation, they were with me because I talked to them about everything every step of the way.
What was that day like when you know you had to face the congregation and literally talk to them? Because I'm a man and I know if I do something and I'm in the public eye and I want forgiveness, I can't just hope they forgive me. I got to address that.
Well,
so did that happen with you?
Absolutely, especially the first incident with the female. That was one of the most challenging events in my life.
Now, this female worked with you?
She worked at traffic court.
But not with you?
Not with me. She worked there, but she didn't work for me directly. She was a cashier.
Oh, okay.
But even with that story, the media has made it worse or have not reported the true facts. I take full responsibility for my action.
Yeah.
But I did not send her a picture. I did not email her a picture. There was a picture, and I'm going to be quite honest with you. We were in my phone looking, scrolling, looking at my kids, cars, a whole bunch of other pictures, and then a picture showed up. But what I didn't know was I thought I had deleted it. I just got an iPhone. My iPhone broke out, a new iPhone. And when you don't delete, you can delete it off your phone.
The iCloud picked it up.
But if you don't delete off the iCloud, it's still there. So when the iCloud, when I rebooted the phone, got a new phone, it came back on there.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it wasn't sexual harassment. It was an isolated one-time incident.
Well, what did she say when she first seen it? Her reaction for strolling through your phone?
It wasn't a reaction of disgust, I'll tell you that. It wasn't a negative reaction. It was a reaction that caused another reaction out of me. But again, for me, come on, it's not funny. It's, I accept full responsibility because I should have been more careful.
Okay.
And I will never put the blame on her.
Okay. But she reported it. How did anybody know if it's just y'all two?
Well, she talked to another particular individual
that reported it.
That reported 3 days late, 2-3 days later.
And then they asked to see your phone?
No, they just
took their word for it?
Took their word for it. Didn't ask me. They escorted me out. Didn't even ask me in my statement because you had a judge there who didn't like traffic court. Period. So he didn't hear nothing I had to say. He leaked it to the newspaper, which was supposed to be a private investigation, but he leaked it to the paper.
I got you.
So, but at the end of the day, for me, I moved beyond that incident.
Right, absolutely.
I've accepted responsibilities. I will not be labeled by that.
That's right.
But what I can say from that experience is some things you learn what to do, but there's some things you learn what not to do. And the experience at traffic court, I believe, has prepared me for a time as this, because it's shown me what I shouldn't do when I get there, so I don't let the people down a second time.
Exactly.
Because people voted for me and they believed in me, and some still believe in me. And going back to my church, when it was time for me to go for my sentence and after being found guilty, it was a shock to the courts, because we pulled up in buses. We had cars. We had over 200-something people there, 45 to 50 pastors who showed up at my sentence hearing. People were waiting in the hallway because people recognize real. But at the same time, I was transparent enough, and they had been with me, but some of the practices at traffic court had been there before I was even born. But on the second thing is, I wasn't supposed to go to jail.
How much time did they give you?
So they gave me 20 months of incarceration. Now, I want you to hear this. 20 months for allegedly, which is still on appeal, and I'm going to keep fighting until the day I die, for allegedly making a false statement. Now, mind you, if anybody knows about the law, if all the corruption charges go out the window, eventually that's going to go out the window as well, because
the fruit of the poison tree.
Fruit of the poison tree. Because how can I lie? I said I didn't do what you're saying I'm doing, and that's dismissed. But on another note, so the other 3 judges, they got perjury, which is higher than allegedly making a false statement, because a false statement is a 302. And what most people don't know, if FBI comes and interview you, you don't sign nothing. You don't even see what he writes. He goes back to the station, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month later, and he writes what he remembers or what he interprets you said, and it becomes law. That's what I was found guilty of, what he interpreted I said, or what he thought I said.
Right.
I did not sign it. The other 3 judges, they had allegedly had perjury. Again, I say allegedly. So, but they went before a grand jury. There was question and answer. There was recordings. There was a signed affidavit. We all get sentenced. We all get the same amount of time. They go to a camp, but I go to a prison. That ain't the kicker. There was another judge in the same city with the same kind of case, same charge. He gets 6 months house arrest. I get 20 months incarceration. Now you tell me, is that justice? Because his last name is different than mine, and his complexion is a lot lighter than mine. And I'm from the urban community, and I got a darker complexion than he does, and I get sent to prison.
Well, isn't that the reason most of the prisons is filled up with black and Latinos? The majority of the people that occupy the prisons. So with that, the way the system is structured and set up is for us to go to the prisons and maintain the prisons and keep the prisons up and
Exactly, and we got to stop it. We got to get legislation. We got to have somebody who has the heart, who will stand up and fight. And I promise you this, I'm going to fight for justice reform like never before.
But this is what I want you to do. I want you to look at my audience and tell my audience why you're running again, and then tell them exactly how that they can get in touch with you, support you, might be part of your campaign, because it's a new movement out here right now. And you'd be surprised how many people want to do some active work in the community, but they don't have the outlet to do it. You understand?
May 26, 2015 was a day that changed my life forever. It was a day that my family drove me down to Butner, North Carolina. It was a day that my mother was crying and helpless because she couldn't help her son, and I couldn't help my mother. My children couldn't help me, and I couldn't help them. going into prison, hearing those gates close behind you, was one of the most dramatic experiences I had ever experienced in my life. Taken into a room, stripped of all your clothes, searched in places that you had never been searched before, when you felt like you were violated. Put on a jumpsuit, walk onto a yard where everybody's looking at you, and you feel like you're all alone. There because all you wanted to do was help your community. All you wanted to do was make a change. All you wanted to do was make a difference. But it was there that I was there for one day less than a year, that I had a renewed commitment, a renewed hope. There was one book that changed my entire life. Yes, I read my Bible every day, but the book that changed my life was The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. And then even in the experiences that I had experienced in the facility, we had a young guy there who, because of the conspiracy and the mandatory minimums, 18, got almost 19 years in prison. Another guy on this side who had committed molestation of a child twice on his second offense in prison only gets 7 years. That is idiotic. That is beyond my human amazement, because I would have never believed it if I hadn't seen it for myself. So I'm committed to this community, to West Philadelphia, not just this place, to the entire country, to fight with Bobby Scott on the Judiciary Committee to make sure that his bill that he has now, SAFE Act, is passed, but also to fight for more radical, revolutionary changes in our criminal justice. We have, look at the judiciary. 90% of them were either somebody's big firm lawyer or a prosecutor. If you're a prosecutor all your life, you're going to see from a prosecutor's lens. We need more defense attorneys. And that's what we're seeing right here in Philadelphia with Larry Krasner, who is a defense attorney at heart, who sees it that everybody ain't guilty. Everybody doesn't deserve. There's a difference between a bad guy and a person who has a bad day. And so I'm fighting for our community to empower our community by raising the minimum wage, affordable housing, educating our children. Bessie DeVos is trying to do some crazy stuff and take away federal funding, but we need more funding so that our children can not just be taught how to take a test, but be educated on how to survive in life. We have to put back those Dobbins and Bach that has those skills and those trades, so because everybody won't go to college. But also to engage you. I can't change it by myself. I need you to work with me and partner. You don't work for me, I work for you. I will be available to you every day of the week that I can possibly be available with my congressional counsel and with my staff, and they will be available. But the way you can get in touch with me is Singletary, 4congress.com. Now, I'm not funded by these billionaires. I ain't funded by the trade unions. And that's another issue for another day, because only less than 15% of us represent in that trade union, and 65% of them don't even live in Philadelphia, but they get all our contracts, they get all our work. That has to stop. That has to change. So if you can't, send a donation. $1 helps, $5 helps, $10 helps. Every dollar will help, will make a difference, and I promise you, it will be used for good use, and we will turn Philadelphia around from Cheltenham Avenue to Willand Avenue, Germantown, North Philly. We got people running in my race who are not even from here. So how can you be passionate for this community if you wasn't born or raised here? You only been here a few years. Then we got another long-time politician who's been around it. I respect him, but check his record. Check his record because the school district is in its position, and the solar tax is because of legislation he wrote that destroyed our school district. A legislation to sell a parking authority to the Republicans. If his legislation had not sold the parking authority to the Republicans, all that money would have been going to the school district. And if all that money had been coming to the school district, we would have soda tax, and we would not be getting this housing tax proposal from the mayor. We can't even afford the taxes we have. Mm-hmm. So I'm Willie Singletary. I'm running for Congress because I believe we all need a fresh start. I need a fresh start. You need a fresh start. Philadelphia needs a fresh start. America needs a fresh start. Donald Trump got to go.
And there you have it. I'm Tracey L. Fisher. This is a reentry point of view. And thanks to my guest, Mr. Willie Singletary.